Everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Anthony Davis continues to play MVP caliber basketball as the Lakers squeeze out a win against Toronto. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always going to be free and never locked up behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 22,000 subscribers who are all feeling at least a little bit better about the Lakers after the last couple games. And the Lakers winning on Tuesday, 132-131 in a game that was played in mud in the first half and on ice in the second, like ice skates. Guys were going real fast up and down, scoring lots of points. Anthony Davis dominates early, dominates late, leads the Lakers to this win. He is just phenomenal, and we will get into that. But I want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. It is really an impressive situation, Andy, where a guy can finish with 41 points and put up the kind of numbers and dominate a game the way Davis did and basically not score for 2.5 quarters.
I was going to say, think how absolutely much shop Anthony Davis could have wrecked if the Lakers didn't decide. He had 16 points in the first quarter, and I guess his teammates thought it was gauche or something because they basically ignored him for the second and third quarters.
It was insane. And for a lot of the fourth.
Yeah, it was pretty inexplicable. But AD absolutely, it was another game, we'll talk about this, where I thought there were a lot of good performances up and down the line. And, coming off the win over the Clippers, you had pretty much everybody chipping in ways that were tangible. But AD had MVP chance going down the stretch where in the last couple minutes of the game, he made 8 straight free throws in a game where he was 13 of 14 from the line, but
he made all 11 of his free throws in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And like I said, in the last 2 minutes, he shot 8, something like that. Last 2 minutes, maybe even less than that. He was phenomenal. There was a sequence in the fourth quarter where it may not have been 4 straight possessions, but it was pretty close, where you had an Anthony Davis layup, then an Anthony Davis block, then Anthony Davis taking free throws, then Anthony Davis drawing what some said was a controversial.
It was all in a row. And the block
controversial charge.
The block was particularly impressive on Scotty Barnes driving the lane, because Barnes, to his credit, had a few moments over the course of the game where dribbling directly at, taking AD directly on, he was able to get some buckets. A quick reminder, Scotty Barnes is really good.
I love it, by the way.
Great bounce back season.
I love it because he is a really fun player. And for what it's worth, man, the Raptors post-trade with RJ Barrett and especially Emmanuel Quickley, who thankfully remains in the East because that guy just torches the Lakers. This looks like one of those situations where both the Knicks and the Raptors are going to end up benefiting from this trade. They're both playing really, really well since this move. And, the Lakers had to fight to make sure that they closed this thing out. Down the stretch, they were up by 4 with like 2 seconds left, and Toronto pushed the ball. Pascal Siakam takes a 3 that Taurean Prince inexplicably decides to not just challenge, but like fly in.
Challenge.
He came really.
Look, I don't know. He was in the bottom right-hand corner of our TV screens. We were watching at home. We were not in the building. Maybe there was a little more airspace between the two of them than it appeared in real time. But Andy, the fact that he was in the same area code as him was
Billy
was
Mack actually.
astonishing.
Billy Mack during the call went from saying like nobody will go near him to whoa.
That guy's near him. It is like the muscle memory and just the instinct to challenge and play defense. It's sort of like when you see a player in the NFL, fall down in bounds, or fall down before they get to the end zone because scoring would give the ball back to the other team, and if you don't, you can run out the clock. Stuff like that, where you have to fight the natural instinct. I am pretty sure that after that, especially after Siakam's ball went in to make it a 1-point game, and Prince looked around, did not see a whistle. He was like, whew, got away with one. But it was we'll definitely get into the performances. But it was the part of the sequence that you're talking about that you mentioned in there. After Barnes, I was sitting watching the game with my son, and after Barnes was blocked by AD, you could just see like, okay, he is in that mode where he is dominating. Like every time he touched the ball, how many shots did he miss tonight? Not many.
He was 13 of 17 from the field.
Right.
In the fourth quarter, AD had 20 points on 4 of 5 shooting, 11 trips to the line. Like you said, he made all 11 of them,
right.
And he was 1 of 1 from behind the arc, and a block. He only had 1 rebound, so I guess
right.
Pick it up.
Slacker. But it was just, I'm watching this, and all night in the first quarter too, like Toronto with Jakob Poeltl not playing, didn't have enough size to deal with AD, and whether they tried Siakam, whether they tried Thad Young, who seems like he's been playing for 50 years and is actually 4 draft classes after LeBron James.
There was a Laker turnover where Thad Young ends up on this breakaway towards the basket, and about halfway through it, he looked like he was like, oh, this is a terrible idea.
It's funny, like, not to get too sidetracked here, but how the Lakers just signed Skylar Mays as their breaking clay in case of emergency point guard, so they can go send Jalen Hood-Schifino, by the way, had a really nice debut with South Bay, get him some actual playing time.
He played really
the ability
well
to develop. Like, I wish the Lakers had a guy like Thad Young around who plays like 2.5 minutes a night until the one night every 3.5 weeks where Toronto needs him. And he came out in 29 minutes with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block.
No,
look,
man,
and he does that he's been doing that every year for like
he's been
years.
A really quality, valuable professional. I'm just saying, in that moment,
no,
he
you
looked
look
like
tired.
He was about to collapse.
You look
between.
So you mentioned that sequence though, and he makes the block on Barnes, and like it was so obvious that AD had taken over this game. And I looked at my son and I said, if Anthony Davis doesn't touch the ball on this possession, it's awful. And I'm not sure my son knows which one that is. He's not a basketball fan. He's a soccer kid. And LeBron brings the ball up the floor, and you just say, it looks like it was like he's just kind of dribbling and sizing up. And for a second, I thought like LeBron's going to do one of those pull up 3 type deals. Nope. He was just waiting for Anthony Davis to be able to get the type of position that he needed, make sure he had the angle to make the pass, whip the ball inside, and AD scores, I think, over Siakam. And it was just, we can talk more about this after the break, but every time this team looks like it is evolving into Anthony Davis's team on the floor. I'm not talking about who's the voice in the locker room or the face of the franchise or whatever, but in important minutes, this game belongs to Anthony Davis. Every step the Lakers take in that process makes them better. And it's not disrespect to LeBron James or Austin Reeves or anybody else who might need to take shots or have possessions. But Anthony Davis is the best player on this team. And he needs to
we've said for a while, this has needed to happen. It's incredibly important that this happen for the Lakers.
And in that moment, LeBron was like, yeah, we are riding this way. Like he recognized what was happening for. Like there have been too many times, too many possessions where AD didn't get the ball in situations like this. AD didn't, find that aggressive post position and go dominate and, quote unquote, demand the ball through his actions. And in the fourth quarter on Tuesday, he certainly did. We'll talk more about Anthony Davis. We'll talk more about a strong team effort on the heels of a strong team effort Sunday. We'll do all of it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and the NFL regular season is wrapped up. The playoffs are just around the corner, and this is the perfect time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is really easy to use. A lot of fun, different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays. And of course, there are NBA options as of this recording. The Lakers 29-1 to win the title. LeBron and Anthony Davis both 100-1 to win MVP. We'll talk about this. AD keeps this up. You might want to get that in now. Might be a better payout. Anthony Davis 9.5-1 for Defensive Player of the Year. What I just said. And Austin Reeves 6.5-1 for Sixth Man of the Year. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet a layup.
So, it was a really tight game throughout. This was not one of those. I think the Lakers got up by 8 at one point.
I believe 8 was their biggest lead.
And I think Toronto got up by about the same amount. But generally speaking, this was a 3 or 4 or 5 point game throughout. And the Lakers have not done well at times this season when they need buckets. In the first half, good God, they were terrible offensively, but they really clamped down defensively. Second half, the entire game opened up. But I really liked the fact that when down the stretch of this game, when the Lakers needed points, you could say play better defense, whatever. When the Lakers needed points on Tuesday, they got them. That is a refreshing change for a team that really has had a problem producing offense when it needs to be produced.
Yeah, we were talking before really quick just about the way AD has been playing. The last 14 games for Anthony Davis, he is averaging 30 points a game on 60% shooting from the field, 42.3% from behind the arc on a little under 2 per game, 77% at the line, a little over 11 rebounds, a little under 4 assists per game, and a steal and a half per game, a little over 2 blocks per game. And if you want perspective on just how much, quite frankly, his teammates have been failing him during that period, his raw plus minus is minus 3.4 during that. That feels like he should have more for his troubles than a minus 3.4.
If the Lakers aren't 19-19, if they are 26 and whatever the other number would be, Anthony Davis is in the middle of the MVP conversation. I mean, absolutely 100%. When people are making these lists 38 games through the season, Anthony Davis, we are almost halfway done. Anthony Davis is 100% at the, in that top 2 or 3 or 4 guys. It's only because the Lakers are 19-19 that he's not, although really he should be, because the only reason they're 19-19 is because he's doing all this stuff.
This is an off the top of my head, I guess, pronouncement or question, however you want to put it. But if Anthony Davis is not currently, the way he's playing right now, the best two-way player in the league, there cannot be that many other, just for the sake of argument, guys. Like maybe, I don't know, Giannis. If he played enough, maybe considering what's asked of him, Jimmy Butler, or I guess maybe Bam. The
answer is there isn't one.
I don't think there is either.
Nikola Jokic has very quietly improved his defense. There's no question about it. Yeah. He's a significantly better defensive player now than he was before, but he's not Anthony Davis. And I don't know for sure, but Giannis is that kind of player. I haven't watched enough Bucks games to say is he at that level this year? I do what I do when I can't say definitively that somebody's better or worse. It would be almost impossible for somebody to be better night to night than Anthony Davis.
Like Kawhi Leonard, for example, obviously can still do incredible things on both sides of the ball, but he doesn't play as much, and he has more help in a lot of respects on both sides of the ball. It's the exact same argument I make with Jason Tatum. Like, Jason Tatum has turned into a really good two-way player, but especially defensively, there are a lot of guys around him doing some of that lifting. Like AD defensively, he is both the anchor of what they do and the guy doing the most lifting. Like, it's both.
I will say the Lakers with Reeves in the starting lineup, and who continues to struggle from 3-point range. I mean, really struggle from 3-point range. Although he picked a great time to hit the 1 3-pointer that he hit deep into the third quarter. I think it was about 3 minutes left. He had missed 5. A couple of them went in and out. You could tell he was super frustrated, and he did like the Nick Van Exel. Except from 3-point range. He's like, I can't make a 3-pointer. I'm going to try a 4-pointer. He went back like another 10 feet, and he buried it. And the Lakers needed that shot. But he struggled. But overall, that the Lakers in the last couple of games have cleaned up the defense, particularly early in games. And, the difference is really significant. They have managed to figure out how to play some defense without having to put Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish on the floor at the same time. Not that worked all that well, but you understand what I'm getting at. Like, they are making themselves a better defensive team over the last little stretch of games, almost no matter who is on the floor, which the communication's better, the intensity is higher, whatever it is.
Well, I think you mentioned Jared Vanderbilt, and while the offense with Jared Vanderbilt is always going to be gravy, and maybe even thin gravy at that, I do think Jared Vanderbilt is starting to look a lot better now when he plays. He's more active. He looks just more physically. He looks more physically comfortable in games. He had 6 rebounds in this game. Like, he had an offensive rebound that led to a second chance point. Like, he's starting to look, I think, more like Jared Vanderbilt, even if the offensive issues are very pronounced. I think having D'Angelo Russell back, while it obviously doesn't help your defense, it helps balance the offense in ways that can turn around and maybe stabilize your defense just for making more shots.
And D'Lo was chippy tonight. Chippy on Tuesday.
He and RJ Barrett were going at it. And then, look, Christian Wood, I think, kind of quietly continues to play very well on both sides of the ball since re-entering the rotation. Like, I think when Darvin clearly had to choose between one or the other, because the times where he's playing both him and Jackson Hayes, there wasn't enough time for either to get into a rhythm, and it was leading to both of them playing really badly.
I would agree.
I think he initially chose Jackson Hayes in part for increased athleticism. I think he thought Hayes could be more switchable with the type of defense that he was looking to play and stuff like that. Hayes played really badly. Wood back in the rotation, he looks more comfortable. I think he actually looks like he might be more conditioned.
He's moving very well. I think, better than he was earlier in the season.
Yeah. And Christie continues to play very well now that he is back in the rotation. Should also mention, too, by the way, Cam Reddish, hit 4 threes in this game, but also drew a crucial 6th foul against Emmanuel Quickly and had to leave the game. And Darvin described
basically being evaluated for concussion. Quickly, in now what I guess will become a key signature phrase for all Lakers fans, Quickly got him with a horizontal elbow with speed. I didn't know this. The explanations on reviews in Tuesday's game, I don't know who the lead official was. I forgot to look that up. Were spectacular.
Based by what I saw on Twitter, it's a guy that Raptor fans despise.
They must. The coach doesn't like him either. I mean, I look it up. I meant to look it up during the game, but God, I mean, these explanations were as detailed as any I've ever seen in the replay era, and I was here for all of it. I mean, he drew the foul quickly. I don't think deserved. I mean, look, Toronto. I will say, Toronto had a few things to complain about. Lakers fans on Lakers Twitter did not think that was a flagrant foul on Quickly, but
it was a foul. I mean, he should have fouled.
It was definitely a foul. I don't think anybody was arguing that wasn't a foul. They were, even Lakers fans were like, "That's not. Can we keep going? Let's keep playing."
It was absolutely
it's not a flagrant. And I mean, it's one of those things where like Quickly was certainly not trying to hit him, and all he's trying to do is lift the ball up, and he got him with the elbow. It was definitely a foul, but flagrant, we'll see. But I mean, most people didn't think so, except
it was not
that official who really explained it in great detail, though. And then the offensive foul that was charged with a moving screen on Barnes that erased what would have been a game-tying three was a really marginal call. I mean, there were a few, Barnes, I thought Christie fouled Barnes on his way to the basket. That could have been a 3-point play. I understand why Darko went off on the officials after the game in the Raptors coaching press conference. But let's keep breaking that down. The Wood thing and the Russell thing are critical, I think, for achieving a little bit of balance with this Lakers lineup. And one reason I think, particularly Wood, that Darvin seems to have found a little bit more of a coherent rotation. We'll do it next.
Locked on Lakers brought to you by BetterHelp, and we've concluded with the December holiday stretch. We're now in the new year, and this can be a difficult time for people, whether the period in the holidays, the stress that can sometimes come from being around family that you don't always get along with, the economic toll that these celebrations can take, or just it can feel daunting, the idea of how do I do better in a new year? What are the things that I'm going to do that obviously you want to aspire to, but at the same time, you don't want to be overwhelmed. And therapy can be a really bright spot amidst all that anxiety and uncertainty. I can personally speak to how much therapy helped me during a really difficult period in my life for me and my family. And just sitting down, talking with a professional, it was a game changer. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, accessible anywhere, 100% online. There's no waiting rooms, there's no traffic, and it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. And if things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. So if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
One of the things that had been limiting, and Tuesday's game notwithstanding, Cam Reddish is certainly part of this, is like this the Lakers rotation, particularly with guys like Russell in and out, has been very much an either or proposition where you can play guys who can give you some offense, but you're really going to suffer defensively. You can play guys who are going to give you some defense, but you're going to have a ton of trouble scoring the ball in ways that can undercut your defense. I mean, a bad offense is often the foundation for a bad defense, and vice versa. Christian Wood has given them a little bit of balance. He's not perfect defensively, but he can score. He's back to being able to score, feeling comfortable there, and like you said before, has moving well, playing better, whatever. He's giving them more defense than I think maybe was expected, or maybe he was giving earlier in the year, which is maybe why they went with Hayes. But now Darvin can deploy him, much better player than Jackson Hayes, and keep the integrity on both sides of the ball. There's not a lot of sacrifice. D'Angelo Russell is back a little bit more in shorter minutes, no question, to more like what he looked like at the beginning of the year, where the offense makes a difference. You can see the difference with D'Angelo Russell back. And the defense is good enough. And then Max Christie who has been deployed, I think, very smartly with what he's been asked to do, and more importantly, what he's not been asked to do, also gives you a little bit of, a little more consistency in decision-making stuff than, say, Cam Reddish on most nights. But also with that defensive integrity, it feels like the Lakers have at least the availability for much more balance now than they had before.
Yeah, and that should only improve once Rui Hachimura is eventually back. He had been upgraded to doubtful, but that is better for people who don't know the designations than previously listed as just out. He didn't play in tonight's game, but hopefully that puts him on track, if not to play Thursday against Phoenix, Saturday in Utah against the Jazz, who, by the way, have been playing well of late, and they're always really, really good.
They've won 8 of 10, Andy. 8 of 10. Yeah, they are actually in front of Golden State in the standings after going into Wednesday's game. And so, like, the Lakers, they've not caught a lot of scheduling breaks. They got Toronto post trade when they're playing better. They got Memphis in the 4.5 minutes when they had Ja available to them. They catch Utah, which is supposed to a week and a half ago looked like the terrible team in this stretch, and all of a sudden they're 8-2 in their last 10. It's like,
well, thankfully, Phoenix
not that easier.
Bad. Phoenix has still been very bad. So maybe that
better than the Lakers in the standings, but
they have not been very
inconsistent.
They have not been playing well. But and Rui is another guy that I think gives them a little bit of both when it comes to both sides of the ball. There are certain things Rui does very well defensively that you can hopefully use to paper over some of the weaker areas. And then he obviously gives you a scoring option. And he gives you also somebody that plays well with both LeBron and AD, but also is pretty ideal for when one of them is off the court, because he plays very well with either one of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, it also makes it so you can hopefully take Taurean Prince off the court for a few minutes, just
shave some minutes off Prince, shave some minutes off Reddish. Exactly.
Right. And this isn't meant to slam Reddish or Prince. It's just the idea of, you don't want Taurean Prince playing 30 plus minutes a night. Like that's not who he's been on his career. Like, he's somebody who's typically played in the mid 20s. Like Cam Reddish, you don't want playing close to 30 minutes a night. I don't have an issue with him playing, but I want it closer to, 15 to 20. I think that's most ideal for the team and, frankly, for Cam. And again, we'll see what happens with him in terms of evaluation for a concussion. He looked both like he was trying to stay in this game and that he didn't even know that there was a game going on.
Right. Well, where is the game?
He looked pretty dazed. He looked pretty dazed after that hit.
I know I get it, and I understand. Like, fans want Rui to play more. Like, there's a strong desire.
Your co-host wants Rui to play more,
right? But he needs to. I think it's not, for me, it's not so much volume as some level of consistency. But I do think there is something to be said, particularly with a player like Rui, in, like, if he plays 23 minutes in a game, averages 23 minutes a game, whatever it might be, finding, when you have the players available and you have, a guy like Wood playing well and Russell's back and playing pretty well, and like, you can then put Rui on the floor in those situations and for the 23 minutes a night that are best tailored for him to succeed. You can play Wood for the 20 minutes a night that are best tailored for him to succeed, and Max Christie and Prince and Reddish. Like, that's, I think, what they really need to be able to do is, we can sit and argue about, like, does this guy deserve 4 more minutes than that guy, whatever, but really, can you find the right slot that allows each of these guys to play their best, maximize what they're good at, and hide the things that they're not. And that has been a problem for Darvin over the course of the year, both because of the decisions he's making and some of the decisions that he's been forced to make because guys have not been in the lineup.
And also, too, I think there have been periods, and we may be heading towards this scenario again when Rui hopefully returns soon, where I think there's been a bit of paralysis by analysis with Darvin, where I think he's had too many choices with some of the players available to him. And I think too many choices have at times led him to seek the most perfect lineup possible and the most perfect rotation possible, where things end up getting overthought. And, there may be a point where he needs to consolidate some of these minutes and take somebody out of the rotation so everybody gets enough of a rhythm. Like, it would not shock me if at some point down the stretch, he more or less makes a decision between Max Christie and Cam Reddish, especially once Rui's back, because
Reddish and
I feel like
Vanderbilt.
those, or Vando, I guess. I mean, Vando could be another possibility. I think the difference between Vando and I was going to say, I guess in some respects, I think Vando provides a certain level of perimeter defense that nobody on the team, including even Christie, can provide, as far as like the wings or guardish wings out there, which I think could keep Vanderbilt out there. And he's a good rebounder, and this team often lacks for rebounding. So Vando didn't come to mind for me, but
how you put Rui being available is going to chip into Vanderbilt's minutes. I think
that's true.
It's
but
just, yeah. I mean, go on. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it wouldn't shock me if at some point Darvin decides that he has to consolidate one spot in the rotation. And look, maybe by the time the trade deadline rolls around, there could be a move that to some degree solves that as well. But look, those are the good problems that coaches hope for, and hopefully one that Darvin can land on a decision quickly, and it's the correct one.
Yeah, look, they played 9 guys, 17 minutes or more. Russell actually played the fewest number of minutes on the team on Tuesday with 17. Played well. 11 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 5 assists. And again, you can really see the influence he has on the offense. But Christie actually had more floor time than Russell did. But you had 9 guys playing, 17 minutes or more. That's hard to do. You can sometimes squeeze a 10th guy in there a little bit, but 10 on a consistent basis is not easy to do. 9 is sort of the standard, and 8 is when you're really starting to tighten things up a little bit. I do think there will be someone that gets squeezed. I understand he was 4 of 6 from the floor from 3-point range on Tuesday. I would really like to see most of those Cam Reddish minutes go to Christie. It's what I don't think that's what's going to happen. But short of that, I do think I am feeling better about the direction that they are going, in part because guys are playing better again. Wood is playing better. Russell is playing better. And I think we're past the point where there's going to be too much effing around with Jackson Hayes or something like that. He had his shot. It did not work out. I think the next big wild card is what happens when Vincent comes back, but there's still some time.
There's a lot of time before that. I mean, honestly, depending on who is playing, who's still on the team, how guys are doing, you might decide, depending on when Vincent comes back, that there isn't enough time to put him back.
It's possible
that it's a lost season for him, which sucks.
It's possible.
But you can't afford to just disrupt things for the sake of getting the most for your money. Like, it's another thing if it seems like he's truly needed because other guys aren't performing up to what you need. But we'll see. I mean, the good news is they've played 2 good games in a row in wins, and we were seeing glimpses of what they could look like even in the loss to Memphis, and even at times in the loss to Miami, disappointing as those were. They're starting to look like a much better team. They just need to keep it up because you got to get back to that 5 games above 500 that they were not that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough in the West. We'll talk about this, I think, tomorrow, on the day off. But the next goal for the Lakers needs to be get yourself to a 6 seed, get out of the play-in. That is not easy to do. They got to make up 3-4 games to do that. And so they just, got to stack up wins. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 22,000 subscribers, all getting ready for a marquee battle with the Suns at home on Thursday night. I believe it's a TNT game, so it'll end around midnight. And we will see everybody tomorrow.